This is the College Football Connection Podcast with Alvin, Reid, Bradford, Bruns, and Marty Jenkins on 101 ESPN.
Tempe to Tuscaloosa. Alvin, we have to get sufficiently gassed up for week number 8 of the College Football Connection all around the land, my friend, and we have matchups galore.
Finally, fall is in the air.
Oh, you can feel it.
It's like, okay, now it's football weather. It just hasn't been.
It is crisp this morning.
It's been fun. It's been great. But like I say, just in Columbia and Lawrence and Georgia and wherever you've been, it's been 80 and 85 degrees for every game. Mm-hmm. So it'll be nice. It'll be a nice weekend. Not got anything, plans going to any games this weekend, but it'll be nice just even watching football where they, maybe have like sleeves on.
You don't say. Nice matchups, obviously, aplenty as we have hit, my friend, officially the halfway point of the season on the CFC. It is 101 ESPN, that YouTube channel, and 101ESPN.com. Bradford, Bruns, Alvin, Reid with you. Last weekend, of course, Alvin, that inglorious result for Old MU against Bama. Both of those teams back in action this weekend with key SEC implications down the line, no question about it. So let's begin, without any further ado, taking it down to Bryant-Denny Stadium. 6:30 p.m. on Saturday evening. It is number 11 Tennessee matching up against the now number 6 ranked Crimson Tide. Alabama, we understand, Alvin, has been on that heater of sorts. 5 victories in a row, has looked like a strikingly different, markedly different team since that week 1 letdown, which seems honestly like a distant memory, an eternity ago.
Especially since what has gone on at Florida State since that game.
You could say that.
It puts a blemish. Like I say, they've played so much better since then, but then you go back to, you got thoroughly whooped by that team.
You did.
Right, so it's weird. It's kind of a conundrum.
Hard to reconcile in a way. And maybe that's why, even despite the home environment, you're talking about minus 8.5 here. Not a double-digit favorite, even though when you think about Alabama, Alvin, over the course really of the past few seasons, Alabama actually, even over the last 7 home games, has covered in those instances. Here we have an over-under figure of 59.5. Last weekend did just enough, frankly, on offense. Got just enough plays, specifically off-platform, from Ty Simpson to be able to take down Mizzou. And what I saw, despite not getting a lot of traction in that running game either, and it is a good thing that, by all accounts, are going to have Jam Miller back after that dicey concussion sustained. Oh, my goodness, Jalen Catalan knocked him out in the fourth quarter. Still held on to the ball for nearly 39 minutes despite not doing a ton as far as the chunk plays were concerned. Simpson has the offensive trio of wideouts there rolling, and the defense, it definitely is playing at a different level here, and you're going to need that type of performance because Tennessee, if nothing else, can move that ball up and down the field.
Well, that's the thing. I think Tennessee can move the ball, and I also think that going back to last week in the game in Missouri, you play 60 minutes of football. Now, what we're talking about for the most part is spreads and lines and things like that. Well, Alabama, 3.5 favorite. Missouri gets the ball. If Missouri doesn't score, Alabama covers. Missouri scores. All right, so, we're down to 3 instead of 3.5. All right, so, so Missouri is covered on that side of it. I was figuring that Missouri was, at that point, Alabama's going to get a couple of first downs. And Alabama ends up punting back to Missouri. Missouri gets the ball a minute and a half left in the game. They didn't do anything.
Plenty of time.
Because it was tough because they didn't have any timeouts left. But I'm like you. I'm thinking like, well, it isn't like you stomped them, Alabama. I mean, you controlled the game for the most part, but they had the ball with a minute and a half left to score possibly a touchdown that would have won the game. Didn't happen. We all know that. But now, harken back to Tennessee and Alabama. Alabama has had to not only get their stuff together, they've had to play some tough games. All right, you're at Georgia, you're home to Vandy, you're on the road to Missouri.
3 ranks in a row.
Right, and you come home to play Tennessee. I think 8.5 points is too many.
Oh.
That's all. I'm not saying that Alabama is maybe kind of like Missouri, where you're looking at that game saying, like, I think the better team is Alabama. They've had the lead pretty much the entire game. But I just don't think they'll put Tennessee away in any way, shape, or form. That one, Tennessee couldn't score a touchdown just like Missouri did.
Fair.
To come within 8.5 points. So I'm going to go with Tennessee on that one. I know Alabama's home. I know they're feeling their way to the college football playoff, at least in their own eyes. But you're going to give me 8.5. I'll take Tennessee. I believe it's going to be an under too, man, on 59.5. I think we're going under on this.
That one's tricky for me.
That was tricky too. But I looked at how many points that Alabama scored against Missouri, and like I said, they had a little of this, they had a little of that, they had a little Missouri help because there was some questionable,
behavior,
coaching
decisions,
decisions,
ignoring the top running back in the entire country for the fourth quarter.
Right. You didn't use him, and the game was not out of line at that time. And you figured, like, if a guy's going to rush for 55 yards, you're thinking, like, I was thinking, like, man, he's only going to get 55 yards. I think Missouri's going to get killed.
Never allowed him to get into a rhythm. Never allowed it.
Never at all. So maybe they saw something we didn't. I thought the fake punt action and that was just a little bit too much desperation. It was just like, you're not down 17 points. They're not killing you. So anyway, that's why I'm not saying that Alabama's suspect, but I am saying that I think Tennessee can, A, play them a game regardless, B, definitely play them a game coming off the last 3 games that Alabama played, which were all high stakes.
Plenty of MU thoughts in just a few minutes here on the College Football Connection, but I will keep it centralized to the Vols as well as the Crimson Tide. And Alvin, I could give you all sorts of numbers. I could give you all sorts of statistics as to why I don't particularly like Tennessee, regardless in this spot. 6-14 as an underdog, period, against the spread since 2020. Alvin, did you know not a single Power 4 conference squad has a worse record in those circumstances than Tennessee? But I don't have to go that far back. Just the last couple of games, small sample size or not, to what Tennessee was not able to do with authority, specifically from a defensive standpoint, back-to-back league matchups against Mississippi State and Arkansas. Alvin, you had to win track meets against those teams. And for as great as Joey Aguilar has been this season, over those last 2 games, he's actually averaged 9 yards per attempt. The offense here, as far as finishing drives, still being able to do the thing, that hasn't been the issue for Josh Heupel and company. But a year ago, when this team made that run to the CFP, only to lose rather ingloriously, of course, to the eventual national champion. No matter, because that defense allowed 16 points per game. Almost double it so far in 2025. 29 points per contest. It isn't sustainable. Sooner rather than later, the losses, I do feel as if in the back half of the schedule can really pile up. And while this team is really good, it's very adept at running a lot in the way of pre-snap movement. It's a different challenge for the Alabama defense. Going into that stadium, nighttime, Tuscaloosa, I don't like the odds here. I think Alabama can win by at least 10 points, by double digits. And that over-under figure, they're explosive, but I'm shying away from it. I can't commit, but I do know that Alabama, the streak continues, make it 6 in a row, keep rising, perhaps even, I'll just say it, into the top 5 after this weekend.
Well, they probably would. And you figure like, Miami probably takes Louisville. I don't know who's going to lose. That's, like you might end up where you're at because all the teams may win this weekend.
Yeah, Louisville's sneaky, but Miami.
But I don't think that, not at Miami.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think so. Not based on what I saw Louisville a couple weeks ago. They lost at home to somebody and had no business losing at home to them.
Needed that Virginia contest.
Yeah.
Needed it.
Yeah. So, yeah. Tennessee. Come on, Tennessee. 8.5. Come on.
We'll see. We'll see. Speaking, though,
Josh Heupel.
Speaking of being in desperate need of something, a victory to be exact. Oh, Hugh Freeze and Auburn. After that interesting second half and finish to the game versus Georgia. I'm not here to get onto that platform, onto the soapbox, and talk about some highly questionable decisions that were made in the replay booth. Regardless, Auburn now has dropped 3 in a row. We all knew this team would start 3-0. Okay, you beat Baylor. That was nice in Waco.
That was a good win.
Okay,
that was a good win.
And your quarterback still doesn't have an interception. However, he also hasn't demonstrated any ability, we've talked about it on the CFC, to push it downfield. And that is a borderline criminal offense, Alvin, when you're talking about Singleton and Coleman, real legitimate threats on the outside, being completely marginalized and or wasted at this juncture. Jackson Arnold, he's able to make plays with the feet. He's able to extend plays with the mobility. But right now, this defense is so far ahead of the O because last Saturday, coming back after that game at MU and watching how it played out down the stretch, the offense, as far as the first half abilities were concerned, you simply couldn't put the ball in the end zone. It wasn't a matter of actually being able to move up and down the field, but you can't finish drives. And that's because the mentality, the ability to basically pound it between the tackles. And now your then captain, Damari Alston, in the backfield, he has been dismissed from the program. Next man up, quite literally, says Hugh Freeze. Okay, welcome, Jeremiah Cobb. But you tell me how in this instance, in the Plains, 6:45 p.m. at Jordan-Hare Stadium, you're going to be able to run that rock against MU. Because as we saw against Alabama, as we have witnessed all season, Alvin, maybe you still have a few question marks, more than a few, on the back end of Corey Batoon's defense. But goodness gracious, this is the second-ranked rushing D in the nation for a reason, and I don't envision a scenario here, even though Mizzou is favored by just 1.5, in which the Tigers from Auburn can consistently keep the chains moving, extend drives. I think Missouri here, despite what you saw last weekend, could emerge in a runaway in a game with an over-under, though, of 43.5.
Okay, I'm going to begin with, I think that's low on the score.
I agree.
All right, so I'm a solid over on that one. In fact, if I had one, just, all right, dude, what's the best thing you got going this week?
The Marty line.
I would say, like, that over on the Missouri-Auburn game. All right, that would be it. I'm going to take Auburn. I'm going to give the 1.5 because you're basically, what is that? You get 2 points at home, 3 points at home, depending on what your program is.
Desperation.
All right. I'm a very old school person, okay? And I watched Missouri play, but what has Missouri not been asked to do all season?
Oh, go on the road. Wait.
Oh, there you go.
Alvin, we went to Lindenwood, as per Eli Drinkwitz. He reminded everybody a few days ago. I'm a little sore. I'm not going to lie.
All right. And I just kind of feel like, all right, you're going on the road to play a game in just an old school traditional place at 6:30 at night. Now, you might just walk right out there and still be the same Missouri that is definitely deserving of a top 15, top 16 ranking in the nation. But this one you got to show me. This is just chutzpah. This is just, you guys haven't played a road game. It's the middle of October. All these other teams have been on the road. The coaches is already half fired or trying to save their jobs, and teams are trying to, we're only 2 games off the lead in our respective conferences. If we could put a little something together, maybe we won't win the conference, but, we could still finish with 8 wins. We could do this, we could do that. Missouri is marching into Auburn at a time when Auburn is like, look, Missouri dust us. I ain't got no job. He knows that. Everybody at the game knows that. And I think Auburn brings their A game. I think they bring their coach-saving game. I really do. And I think they get out of there somehow, some way, with 2 more points than Missouri has.
Okay.
Less than a field goal. If it was a little higher, let me tell you what. If Auburn was given 3.5, which I think would be ridiculous, but if Auburn was given 3.5, I'd take Missouri. It's just so slim that I'm basically saying that I think Auburn will hold off Missouri and win a football game. So I'm nothing against Missouri, but hey, y'all, it's very, very seldom in the history of college football a team played 6 games before playing a road game.
It's unprecedented for the program, at least.
Yeah.
At minimum.
Right.
And now, 4 of your last 6 contests to conclude the regular season are away from the cozy confines. So how do you respond? How do you respond after a performance, Alvin, that, to put it mildly, was incredibly disjointed throughout 60 minutes versus Bama, okay? The scripted stuff right off of the bat was fabulous.
Yeah.
And then somehow, some way, I don't care if you only had the ball for 21 minutes, You got away from the premier playmaker you have, and then the remainder of the offense, the rest of the offense as well. The way in which that game was called, inexplicably, it was so vanilla. You took 0 shots down the field. I don't care about the gyrations and the histrionics of Marquise Johnson, hey, look at me, because that's what a lot of it was. On a national stage, Saturday morning, segueing into the afternoon, you had Missouri not conducting itself collectively, and then from individual standpoints too, as a team that was ready to go from a playing standpoint only to embrace that moment and finally have a breakthrough for Eli Drinkwitz against a top 10 AP team, for crying out loud. Yeah, all of the narratives, all of the pomp and circumstance, all of it was out there, okay? You hadn't beat Alabama in 50 years. We're basically preening and peacocking during the course of the week leading up to this contest. You came out, you were undisciplined, you weren't ready to go. This is very simple. Auburn has a legit run defense. That's great. Alabama had a legit defense, period. I am going helmet on helmet, hat to hat here, and basically pounding it down the throat of Auburn because it is indefensible. The fact that Ahmad Hardy last weekend had a total of 12 totes. You didn't even need one hand to be able to count the number of touches he had in the second half.
He had 2 in the fourth quarter, right?
Rinse.
If that, right.
And repeat.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Fine, you don't want to consistently push the ball down the field. You don't want to get vertical. Kevin Coleman certainly can have one catch for only 2 yards again. I know he missed a little bit of time due to injury. But get back to the bread and butter, because now with Caden Green also having returned at left tackle, looked pretty good after a meniscus procedure, which is scary in and of itself, 320-pound plus. It's really simple here. And if Missouri isn't able to win this one, albeit on the road, by at least a touchdown plus, I have qualms about exactly how it can handle the superior threats to come. I'm not just talking about Vanderbilt the week thereafter. I'm talking about OU down the stretch. And then when you get back to Mizzou to have to confront a Texas A&M, for example, good luck, because you seriously need not only an attitude adjustment in the grand scheme of things, you need effectiveness, you need execution. It starts here.
I agree with you. And I this clowning thing has gone on for like the last 3 years here. And I don't know exactly how you take control. I want you to be yourself. We got to play like our hair is on fire, blasey, blasey, blah. But it seems like Missouri, at the worst times, does these things and costs themselves. And it's really, it's inexcusable in that every season it's something. And you can't do it in a game like last week.
And last Saturday, it wasn't just Zion Young. He received the lion's share of the heat, and rightfully so, off of that first drive defensively. 2 penalties, okay? The unsportsmanlike conduct call as well. But then before all of the captured antics of a Marquise Johnson, you had Eli Drinkwitz basically stomping up and down, trying to stampede across the field to get in the official's ear. The composure was lacking from the opening kickoff.
Right. And
you're hosting.
That's what
you're hosting.
Oh, you were reading my mind. I was going to say the same thing. Coach, it's a home game. And the one thing that you got to get across to your guys is, everybody be calm. And it starts with me. Regardless of what's going on, we can compete with Alabama. We can compete with anybody in this conference if we keep our heads and we play 60 minutes of solid football. You can't be the ringleader of people losing their minds. I was thinking the same thing before you said that, Bradford. This is a home game. You're not on the road where you're dealing with the refs and 110,000 other people, and it's just, like you're trying to make sure that your guys don't get, squashed in the quake of what's going on around them.
But this is the tenor.
Exactly. This is a home game. DeBoer's supposed to be running out on the field hollering at the refs. Anyway, okay.
My blood pressure's rising. Even so, Mizzou minus 1.5.
I'm so glad you said that, because literally that was my thought about it. It said, like, y'all behaving like y'all playing like in Death Valley down in LSU or someplace like that.
Have you been in this spot? Apparently not.
No, apparently not.
Still haven't learned anything.
And there was something to be said about, man, y'all going off. It ain't even noon yet.
Right.
And the whole world is watching because you're in the game.
Until
don't behave
otherwise.
like this.
Seriously. If you really want to remove that monkey, okay, get it off of the back, jettison it, and change that story.
That's the game.
Regarding Missouri's inability to come through in the most critical, crucial moments. It's right there. And yet, as you had stated, with 90-plus seconds remaining in that tilt and still an opportunity to win. Nope, you came up short. All I can say, last thought on this, and I will take the over 43.5 because I think, especially in junk time per se, will it amount to garbage time? Not entirely sure, but there will be points regardless in the fourth quarter. You'd better get that ball to the true freshman out wide in Olubade earlier.
Yeah.
He's a difference maker. The verticality, the catch radius, I don't care about the status there. This team doesn't have a Luther Bird in the third. This team doesn't have a Theo Weiss. He is a playmaker, point blank, period, full stop. Get him out there early in the first half. Got to move on. Got to go to Big 12.
Just run real quick.
Hit me.
I was 15 when Missouri last beat Alabama, and if I remember correctly, it was a Monday night. It was a night game, and I believe the score was 3-0.
Didn't know that.
Right.
Wow.
I just remember it like from being a kid. I wasn't really a kid. I was 15. But yeah, 50 years. That's how time flies.
Wow, a little less scintillating than what we saw last night in the professional ranks, but we will not get into that.
That was quite the...
What an offensive showcase. Icy hot bowl or not. Let's go, though, to Lavelle Edwards Stadium. Tomorrow night, Alvin, at 7 p.m., the Holy War. This is the 96th edition between number 23 Utah as well as number 15 BYU, but it feels as if this is at least the biggest one in the past 15-ish years, okay? Because you've got the Utes coming in as favorites, minus 3.5, over-under at this stage set at 49.5. Utah with one loss. BYU still was able to emerge unscathed from a thriller. Arizona is not a joke, nothing at which to sneeze, but you needed to rally last weekend from a 10-point deficit in the fourth quarter, forced the multiple OT sessions, and then, by goodness, the freshman QB came through to remain undefeated so far.
I tell you what, let's go back to last year. BYU at Utah. Coach at Utah not happy. Not happy with refs. Not happy with BYU. No. Just not happy. Just went berserk after the game. Okay. BYU's coach, I never can pronounce his name, so I'm not going to try.
It's tough.
But, he comes over from the academy, and let me tell you what, that dude be fired up. If you ever watch their games, he's on his players, he's on his coaches, he's on the refs. He's, very, very, intense coach.
And the institution loves it.
Right.
They love the accountability.
They love it, all right? These two teams, like you say, the Holy War, they seriously got issues with each other. It's almost like Missouri, Kansas. It's beyond just the football side of it.
Yes.
We got issues. Okay. Utah still has not, to me, I'm still thinking about, man, Utah got their ass kicked earlier this season at home in a game they were supposed to win.
True. What happened there?
What happened there? And what has Utah done since then that will tell me that it's that Utah team that, I thought would, possibly win the Big 12.
It was Texas Tech, though, after all.
Yeah, it was. We didn't know. Maybe we didn't know. But, man, y'all got whooped. Okay. All right. BYU at home getting 3.5. I just got to go with BYU in this one. I do. I think that last year, BYU, even though they lost some games they should not have won, showed that, hey, man, we got some pretty good players. Okay? They just, I don't want to say played down to the competition, but they shouldn't have lost to KU last year. But KU beat them. But KU was on that run where they beat three teams that were ranked and unranked, and then nobody had ever done that. That was disappointing as far as BYU last year. But I still think BYU's got that core. BYU's got that quarterback. BYU can run the football. BYU can play a little bit of defense. I think Utah at BYU, and by the way, this is like one of those 60-40 crowd things. It isn't like, they'll have 12 Utah fans there. It's a home game. It's a BYU home game. But I like BYU to cover that 3.5. I would be more comfortable going with going with BYU if it was 2.5 or whatever. But I still think that's where that field goal comes in.
Yeah.
I think BYU goes down. They go down by 3 points because Utah has to kick a field goal at the end of the game. Something like that. I don't think Utah runs away from BYU. I'm going on the under on a 49-5 too because I think they'll knock heads.
Interesting.
And I also think they don't want to get into the turnover bowl between each other. I think that's one thing that did Utah in the second half against Texas Tech. They were taking their own drives away, and then Texas Tech just ran away with the game. So I like BYU in that one. I've been impressed with how BYU has been in their game. Like I said, they had to come back and had to win some games, but they can do enough that they'll cover that 3.5.
I've been impressed in particular by the running back, L.J. Martin. Shades, frankly, of Alvin Ahmad Hardy so far this season. He is 7th nationally in rushing yardage and 4th in yardage after contact. And what has happened to that Utah run defense over the course of the past 4 contests? It has been exploited, allowing 5+ yards per carry. And here's something as well that's interesting if you really buy into track record of the relatively recent variety. Since 2021, Utah is a considerably different squad when away from Rice-Eccles Stadium.
Yes.
Okay, just 12-12 overall on the road against Power 4 squads and 2-6 versus ranked foes for that matter. Now, when you're talking about the Holy War, when you're talking about basically not maybe putting as much in terms of stock into the records, they kind of go out of the proverbial window here. But I do feel as if BYU has the blueprint. It has the formula for success in terms of holding down one Devin Dampier at quarterback for Utah. Okay, Texas Tech laid it right out there. If you can force him, if you can hem him in and basically force him to beat you from the pocket, inside of the pocket, that's where you have to be able to take advantage of Utah in this spot. If he is not making those off-schedule, those off-platform plays and being able to extend improvisationally, it's a different offense. And while I am not confident enough to go with one squad or the other outright, I'm looking on the opposite end of the spectrum, buddy. I'm looking at that 49.5, and I'm seeing a ton of explosiveness, and I don't know about the stops, the consistency of the stops from either side down the stretch. So I'm actually playing the over on this one and saying, yeah, these two teams can definitely get into the 50s, if not the 60s.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. I just think it'll be more defense than offense in this game because I think they'll be very conservative in what they're doing. I think the approach to the game will be that. I thought Dampier would be better than he has been.
Okay.
All right, and I know that a lot goes into that. You know, if your offensive line isn't, protecting you the way it had or we thought it was going to, that's one problem. You pointed out you can't score points if you're over there on the bench because the other team that's running the ball down your throat and there's all these 7 and 8 minute drives and you're like, what can I do? Right. So I get that. And I would say if you said, like, all right, who's got a better football team, Alvin, I might say Utah. But I'm just saying that in this circumstance and where we're at now, and based on, you can look at all the statistical information on both of these. But my thing is this: is that I just don't think Utah is as good as I thought Utah was going to be.
Right
now, this is their game to prove it to me. Like, no, we are still all that. We are still a legitimate top 25 team, even though we've had some bumps in the road here. All right. But for now, so I'm going to go with BYU.
Fire it up in Provo. Fire it up earlier in the afternoon. That is in Tempe as well. Contest number 2 of the Big 12 variety for you here on the College Football Connection. 101 ESPN, that YouTube channel, and 101ESPN.com. Bradford and Alvin with you on a Friday morning. Alvin, number 7, Texas Tech. Still undefeated. Still absolutely blistering the competition. Listed at present as a 7.5-point favorite against Arizona State. Let's head out to the desert. We all understood the Sun Devils entering the season, maybe not at the very top of the prediction business, the rankings in the conference, but if you weren't talking about Iowa State, you basically were holding Arizona State with the highest esteem, over under 51.5. I think it's safe to say that we are expecting more in the way of fireworks from this tilt. And I'm not trying to disparage the environment out west, okay, in the Southwest. I'm not trying to make light of Mountain America Stadium. But tell me, convince me, buddy, how a team that is ranked in the top 5 nationally in offensive and defensive efficiency, has the very best run defense, has piled up 157 pressures and 21 sacks to boot. Baron Morton being out there or not, how is Texas Tech not favored by more here? I really am questioning that.
That's more than a touchdown, though, Bradford.
I know.
7.5.
They've been that good. That good.
have they been that good? I mean, they stomped us last week, although that was, look, all right, case in point. They go up 21-0. They had some red zone problems, too.
Okay.
We forced them to kick 2 field goals to fall behind 21-0. I mean, it could have been over with like 5 minutes left in the first half, but or in the first quarter. I'm not kidding. You know, they settled for a couple of field goals. So next thing you know, it's 21-0. It's 21-17 at halftime. KU gets the ball, doesn't do anything with it. They get the ball, don't do anything with it. KU continued to not do anything with it the entire second half. And while Texas Tech, you know, even with the second-string quarterback in there, they're good. Don't get me wrong, okay? But is Texas Tech going to go undefeated? And I don't think Texas Tech is going to go undefeated. I don't. This is prime might get beat territory here.
Straight up.
Straight up. In fact, I wrote it down.
Yeah.
Money line plus 240?
Show the people that black book. Or maybe you can wait. Hey, I know the famous black book.
The black book. That's it, baby. 2 years worth. Yeah, that's yes. I haven't. Like I said, I'm just telling you. If you were gonna throw a little money line out there, okay, Texas Tech, tortilla throwing and alleged pocket knife throwing.
Now, does the status of the quarterback here hindered once again? Baron Morton has left
been hurt.
Contests this year.
Every other game
How much does that play into it for you?
It plays a lot into it.
Because Will Hammond was not great by any means.
No, and like I think if they had played somebody who got credit to their defense, but last week if the opponent had been able to score some points, I think that would have put pressure on him to make plays. They really only blew us out like beginning, like kind of middle of the fourth quarter on. KU's defense had been out there way too long. It's an MO for games like that. They were just plumb tuckered out.
And then Cameron Dickey at running back took full advantage.
Right. And, you know, like, hey, look, and you're playing a team that has had trouble stopping the run. Mm-hmm. All right, and you took advantage of that. But that was late in the game. All right, take it on the road, Texas Tech. Take it to Arizona State, who is a pretty good football team. All right. Once again, that place, I'm told, gets really loud. The people that went to the game last year from KU, they said, like, man, you know, I said, God, he said it was tough that fourth quarter. He said, these people were loud. They're excited about being in the conference. They're excited that they ain't Washington State and Oregon State. They you know, avoided all that action.
Hey, Washington State almost had it pretty good last week.
They sure did. I'm making fun of them. But that whole thing where, like, they were the first to jump in, you know, when Colorado said they were coming back in Arizona and Arizona State came by. Like, right. Arizona State is very, very, very happy to be in the Big 12. And what people told me, like, it was a really, really good trip out there last year. That the people were very nice. The place was packed. They're very, very enthused. I think they bring that energy with them because you got a top 10 team coming in. Too many points, man. Arizona State covers 7.5. I'm saying looking at the money line, but I'm solid on Arizona State covering.
What about?
All right. This one, 51.5 over. I got to go in the over.
It's very gettable.
I said that's very gettable. I mean, one thing, you know how you could like hedge kind of in your mind?
Yeah.
The hedge on the 51.5 is Texas Tech just going in there and just boat racing Arizona State. Mm-hmm. And scoring 40 points themselves.
Sure.
So I think that's why I'm solid on the over, because I said, like, okay, if things do get out of hand, it'll be Texas Tech taking full advantage of Arizona State's defense. And Arizona State, I think, can score against them. So thus, yeah, I think I'm pretty solid on that over in there.
Yeah, the people there, the fan base, Sun Devil faithful, they're enthused. They're excited. This is an opportunity, in my mind, Alvin, it really is a last stand in terms of the conference race. You lose this one, you slip to 4-3 overall.
Yeah.
Regardless of that number, you definitely had ridiculously high expectations, and rightfully so, entering this campaign. Another thing, though, about which you have to be happy entering this game, the fact that Sam Leavitt, by all accounts, he's going to be back. Speaking about both of the signal callers involved in this game, whether it has been Morton or even Leavitt for that matter, guys whose campaigns respectively have definitely been compromised by injury. Now, he missed the last contest, and that's the thing. Last weekend, that 42-10 loss, or 42-14 loss to Utah, didn't exactly inspire a lot in the way of confidence for me, for Arizona State. But it's different. The offense is markedly different. Jordan Tyson as an upper echelon receiver is markedly different with Levitt at the helm. My question, though, is whether that lower body issue, and it has been murky as far as the overall status over the past few weeks, it's been something that has progressively been harder and harder with which to play. Does he have enough juice? Does he have enough of his true ability out there to be able to march it up and down? I think you can do that for the better part of 3 quarters, but in the fourth, attrition, endurance, stamina, sheer athleticism, Texas Tech runs away. Maybe it isn't until late, but I'll go with the Red Raiders by 10 or so. And over-under, this is the easiest one of the week, my friend. 51.5, way over, over.
All right, and like I said, that Missouri-Auburn, that was that one, but both of those are kind of like with the little side notes on there, because one was money line, one was the over.
We like our cake. We like our offense as well as we move along. 3 more to go. Let's blitz it a little bit here on the College Football Connection, talking about 2 prolific attacks in their own rights. Yes, USC number 20 with just the 1 loss, administered by Illinois there in Champaign a couple of weeks ago, traveling to South Bend, Notre Dame Stadium at 6:30 p.m. Alvin, it should be a great one. Fighting Irish still trying to make that uphill climb after having dropped the first 2 games of 2025, looking much better, but now you get some real competition. And yet you're favored by 9.5. Okay, generous, I would say. Over-under of 60.5. C.J. Carr, phenomenal play at quarterback so far for the newcomer for Notre Dame. Can he go toe-to-toe, though, in your estimation, with Maava here?
I think this is a replay of the Texas A&M game, except Notre Dame comes out on top in this one. I see a lot of points in this one. I see Notre Dame not covering 9.5, though. USC, even, like I say, once they decided they were going to play in Champaign, they made that game tight and it was out of hand. They thumped Michigan. They ran the ball on Michigan. And I think that, they're saying, like, look, you can say what you want to about where Michigan is at as a program, but the fact that we could physically line up and open holes and turn our running backs loose
against that defense,
still, that's a formula for success. And I think you could take that on the road. You could take that to Notre Dame. And like I say, Notre Dame is, they lost 2 tough games at the beginning of the year, and they've had their moments. I think Notre Dame is an excellent football team. I think we would be talking if the placeholder on the extra point catches the ball,
brutal.
They tie Texas A&M, and they win the game in overtime. If those 2 things happen, we would be talking about Notre Dame as a potential national champion. Same guys that are out there, all right, but just change that 1 extra point. Now, you're not guaranteed that you would have won in overtime, but you got to figure you got like Notre Dame's chances.
Sure.
That being said, is Notre Dame a top 10 team? I'm not ready to just rubber stamp that yet.
No, not at all.
So I think USC goes in there, and then basically, what am I talking about? Yeah, they come within 10 points. Good Lord. I mean, you can lose by 9 points and still cover. Yeah, I like USC in those points. I'm going to go the over, too, on the 60.5, because I thought, going back, and it's here in the book, remember, I thought it was going to be low. I didn't think a lot of points were going to be scored in the Texas A&M and Notre Dame game.
I remember that.
They blew that. They raced past that by halftime. I think similar here. I think similar game. I think Notre Dame prevails in this one, but we're going over the 60.5, and USC is going to cover the 9.5.
Notre Dame's questionable defense is once again going to be tested in this spot. However, being in that home environment, this is a real legitimate, credible litmus test for Notre Dame at long last, and you basically don't get any of those, quite frankly, for the remainder of the duration of the schedule. Yeah. Really, you don't. So you have to not only prevail in this one, and the number, yes, is at minus 9.5 right here, right now, but you have to do so in an authoritative manner, in my estimation. Honestly, Alvin, and I know right now things are trending. You're rising quickly. You're already back to number 13, but you need a commanding win against USC. I don't know if it gets to 10. As a matter of fact, here I'm saying USC plus 9.5, but I do feel as if it's going to be a competitive, tight ball game for a good portion of the 60 minutes, but 60.5... don't have a great feel for that one. I'm going to steer clear of the over-under here.
All right. I just think that in my mind, I just keep seeing that replay. That I said I think there are going to be more points scored in this game than you think. Mm-hmm. That's all. And I think 60.5. That means it doesn't necessarily mean that both teams have to get to 30, but both teams have to get to the high 20s, and then somebody gets that last score at some point. Notre Dame's defense, it ain't a block of granite up there, and USC can run the football. Now, if they don't go over, it's because both teams will run the ball so well that you'll look up and say, like, man, it's halftime already. Both teams had like 2 possessions, and the score is 10-10.
Finally utilizing Jeremiah Love.
Finally. And I think he'll be a key to the game, quite frankly.
I agree.
But now I think one thing that Notre Dame had, I'm sure they maybe figured this out before the season, but then they ran into it. They're spying Jeremiah Love. They're just keeping the guy like, hey, the one guy that can't beat us is this guy.
And why wouldn't you?
Right. I said, if he gets out here and rushes for between 150 and up to 200 yards, we're going to lose. All right? Can't have that. And all these teams are just very, very targeted on him, and I think it's taken a while for the offense to catch up.
Enter C.J. Carr, who has to continue to play very, very well at the controls of Notre Dame. Speaking, though, Alvin, of replays, you referenced as many or as much a moment or so ago. The Ole Miss coaching staff probably doesn't want to review a lot of those stemming from that 3-point victory a few days ago against Wazoo.
Yeah.
Wazoo?
Well, they looked past them. I'm going to give them a little bit of credit. Washington State, they looked at the film. They were better than Washington State. They just didn't play. They just didn't show up. They didn't play.
The Lane Train and Company with work to do, to put it mildly, this weekend. You have to travel between the hedges. Sanford Stadium, number 5, Ole Miss at number 9, Georgia, in one of just many top-flight SEC matchups this weekend as we move along here on the CFC. Over-under at 56.5. Alvin, Georgia favored at present by minus 7.5. We could stand here. We could talk about how the Bulldogs benefited in a number of ways last weekend against those Auburn Tigers. Yeah. And yet, despite doing nothing offensively for the entire first half, I looked up at one point watching that replay broadcast. Basically, Auburn was able to run 21 of the first 26 plays, outgained, for that matter, its competitor by the fact, my goodness gracious, about 200-20 in the first 20-ish minutes of that ball game. And here we are, though, with another victory. So this isn't your typically stout Bulldogs defense. This is not an offense that has really blown me away by any stretch of the imagination. I'm hard-pressed to ride with the Bulldogs here, but I do think that some cracks are also beginning to show for Ole Miss. It's just that Trinidad Chambliss has done such a great job of covering and concealing the majority of them that Ole Miss hasn't been made to pay just yet.
I agree with you on that one. I'll tell you what. Georgia, you just can't get your mind off the fact, like, man, Georgia was like on the ropes and somehow or other Auburn fumbled the ball at the 1 centimeter line. And you're just like, really? Okay. And it just seemed like, boy, that just changed that entire game. Now, I had Georgia in that game, so more power to them. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, more power to you, Georgia.
Alvin, the ball does not have to completely cross the goal line.
Don't get me started on
I need a timeout.
Right. He's like, say, like, what? Right.
Please.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so, what we call it, a television timeout? Like, oh, boy, you know what? There a lot of Americans about to turn that game off, saying, like, man, Georgia just out here getting whooped. Now, maybe they had to come back, but, boy, they were in trouble if Auburn scored a touchdown right there. All right, so who's Georgia to be given 7.5 points, even at home, after getting beat by Alabama at home? Okay, Ole Miss is not Alabama. I'm leaning toward Ole Miss covering, but I don't trust Lane Kiffin. Like remember I said, I like Lane Kiffin. I don't trust Lane Kiffin. Last week does have some, I think residue to it. Maybe they're being vanilla. Maybe they didn't want to show. Maybe they didn't really practice all that hard against Washington State. I don't know. But you ought to do better than that at home against the Washington State team. I'm leaving the winner of this one on the point spread alone.
Same.
But I'm going on the under on the 56.5.
I feel you there because Georgia, it is absolutely imperative for Georgia to keep this score down. Do what you can to mitigate the effect in the backfield of Lacey, the Mizzou transfer. He's been very good this season.
Good.
He's also been a bell cow. He's been a workhorse. And what he hasn't been able to do, however, has been he hasn't proceeded to break a ton of chunk plays, right, and gains. So Georgia, if you can maintain your gap integrity, if you can stay in your lanes, it is imperative. It's of paramount importance here. And at some point, I feel as if a defense still along the lines of a Georgia can do enough also to limit the effectiveness overall of Chambliss too, because he hasn't been quite as electric over the course of just the last couple of games. Still a Division II transfer, with all due respect, from Ferris State. What a great arc. But here on the road, yeah, I can't completely side with Georgia to be able to win by, say, a touchdown plus, but I definitely feel as if this one is trending under in a major way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That I just don't have a feel for Georgia covering. That's what I'm saying. Man, Georgia covering 7.5. I don't think so, but I don't know that they won't, because I just don't know what Mississippi's going to bring into Sanford Stadium. So I'm leaving. I'm going to leave the spread alone on that one, but I'm definitely going on the under.
Is Lane Kiffin going to bring more Kirby Smart-oriented insults into Sanford Stadium? Who really knows?
Exactly. Right. They're colorful people.
Fun,
right.
if nothing
By the way,
else.
money line on that one was plus 230, but that was not. I was thinking like, stranger things have happened. But going back to, like I said, that wasn't if I was going to do a money line, that wouldn't be it. It'd be Texas Tech and Arizona State. But that was one that kind of caught my eye. I said, man, that's a pretty good price on, Ole Miss for a Georgia team that, we saw them play last week and we saw them lose at home to Alabama, who I'm not saying, was in danger of getting beat by Missouri, but was kind of in danger of getting beat by Missouri. So once again, we've had this conversation. I think anybody could beat anybody, quite frankly. This would be the hardest college football year in a long time if you were just going to do pick'ems. Leave the spread out of it. Usually in college football, man, you get 8 out of 10 right just because, I know who's going to win.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
And that's where the next matchup, our final one here of this iteration of the College Football Connection, comes into play. Alvin, if just a couple of short years ago we had said LSU is just going to roll the ball out there against Vanderbilt, it's a foregone conclusion. We know precisely what is going to materialize in that affair. Not so fast, my friend, anymore, because LSU, despite being ranked number 10 at 5-1, traveling at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning to First Bank Stadium in Nashville to take on Vanderbilt, which is still at number 17, really a testament to just how effective this program has been in spite of that loss to Alabama. But that's the thing. Now an extra week with which to prepare. And shockingly, at least in my opinion, Alvin, the Commodores regarded as 2.5-point favorites in a contest with an over-under of 46.5. I want to give that credit. I feel as if I'm obligated, I said this a couple of weeks ago, to put a little more respect on the names of Clark Lee, Diego Pavia, etc. And by the same token, LSU, as per usual, knows what is at stake here. On the road, not in Baton Rouge. I love this defense. I love the defense's ability to stuff the run. Vanderbilt has no running game of which to speak beyond the improvisational stuff from Pavia. LSU's offense. Do you finally decide to show up here?
No,
Bradford,
I said the things I have learned over the course of the first half of the season is LSU's offense is just not any good. They just don't score a lot of points.
Is it? Some of it has to do, surely, with the health of Nussmeier, and he's been dealing with a malady of different things, but a myriad of things. How in the world, for a team with so much blue-chip talent, 4, 5-star guys galore, really just 5 stars, Durham at running back, all these threats at receiver, and you cannot sustain extended drives?
No. And scores at the end of the game are 20-10. Like, huh? Right. No, I think I get it. Now, granted, quarterback, maybe he's a little more banged up than we know or whatever, but I'm just convinced. I really am. I'm saying like, oh, I get it. Something's going on with that offense. Scheme, line, quarterback receiver connections, something like that, where they are not going to score 35 points in a game. And that's why I'm taking Vandy in this one, because I think Vandy, one, can score. And I think that, look, I don't think LSU, LSU will beat Vanderbilt in the track meet because they're LSU. And I think, like, look, if that defense doesn't keep Vandy from getting into the high 20s, I don't think LSU can keep up.
Vandy's unafraid. Vandy does not care.
Right. And this is their Alabama game from last year. And they can also tell themselves, like, hey, we went down there and, like, hey, that was a game on the road against Alabama. Okay. They ain't. Right. Because I thought that Alabama just go slap them around. I think they ended up covering, but, it was late in the game. So I think this is that game for them. Hey, let's beat LSU. Let's beat LSU. People be talking about us. We'll jump up 4 or 5 rungs maybe. And for Vanderbilt, hey, we're ranked number 14, 12 in the country, something like that. Hey, that's tall cotton for them.
What a ride.
That's a ride, right. And so I think they handle LSU. And look, as I said, LSU, all their issues, coach, players, everything, all that stuff, they just have not looked impressive this year. They just haven't to me.
Except on the defensive side of the football.
Oh, yeah, but what I'm saying is when the game is over, and you said like LSU, preseason number 5, coming into the season, LSU, you only beat them by that much? LSU, lost that game. LSU, I'm still waiting. And I don't think this is the week that it shows up.
Okay.
So, yeah. I'm taking Vandy. Vandy will cover 2.5.
I think it's going to be a nice time in Nashville on Saturday night, huh? Well,
yeah.
I'm still hanging my
You
hat.
said, are we 46.5 or 48.5 on that one?
We're at 48.5.
48.5.
Right,
Oh, boy. What are you thinking on that one? Me too. I'm the under, but I got to decide right now if I'm going to. I'm going to leave that one alone.
Yeah.
I got under written down, but that was also one where I'm saying, I don't know.
When they started to get that much closer, both schools to 50, I said, yeah, okay, I'm playing under on that one. Because predominantly, once again, principally, Alvin, the chief component here, it is that D. I am hanging my hat once more on trusting Blake Baker's unit because I feel as if, just call it a hunch, of the foremost variety, you are going to be able to harangue Pavia into making some poor, ill-advised decisions down the stretch. Maybe it is just a one-point game. Maybe LSU loses yet again in a major spot. But LSU plus 2.5? Yeah, thank you kindly. I will die on that hill, I suppose.
You're saying,
I will die on that hill.
Okay. Vandy can force turnovers. You say that about any team. They get a fumble recovery, they get an interception. Something where they have a short field. I could put up kind of some instant points. I think that's all they need to get LSU on the run. I don't really see Vandy going 80 yards every time they get the ball, but I think if they can be opportunistic. And, hey, a holding penalty against LSU, and they had the ball to the 20-yard line, back to the 10, they don't move it, they punt it, Vanderbilt gets the ball to the 45-yard line of LSU, where all we got to do is come on. We're almost in the red zone already.
Sure.
Things like that. Okay. I think, and that's what LSU has shown. When their offense is not doing anything, they're giving up field position. They're giving up time of possession. That's why these games are close.
Yeah.
It's like, well, one, you don't have the football because you're punting all the time. And 2, you're not really stopping the other offense. You're keeping them out of your end zone.
Not rocket science.
Yeah, it's not rocket science. And Vandy has a lot of rocket scientists down there. So, yeah, there we go.
Look at that. He's a professional, ladies and gentlemen. One affair that we didn't get to deconstruct because, well, it's a game right now between Indiana and Michigan State. The Hoosiers favored by 27.5. However, before we get out on this edition of the College Football Connection, wanted to get your initial thoughts, your interpretation of the massive extension that was doled out yesterday to the man at the helm of Indiana, Curt Cignetti. Now, the recipient of a brand new 8-year, $93 million deal. He is going to be one of the 3 most well-compensated, handsomely rewarded coaches in all of D1 football. Alvin, we're not going to pretend to be Paul Feinbaum here on 101 ESPN, the YouTube channel, and 101ESPN.com. I don't really get anyone who would have trepidation about this move. Indiana, as a football program, had been irrelevant for the better part of 127 years. This guy is taking this team to interstellar dimensions right now, and you lock him in. You're going to take care of his coaching staff. He continues to flip the script on everybody who thought that last year was a one-off. What is the downside here?
None.
What is the downside?
There's none. And it accomplishes a couple things. One, it means he won't take the Penn State job at least, because he'll be there at least a season.
Uh-huh.
2, he wouldn't take the Florida State job. Although if I'm looking at the Florida State kind of state of affairs down there right now, I'm not sure I want to launch myself into that at Florida State. Okay, so I guess technically right now those are the 2 biggest gyms out there. I don't think he wants to go out to UCLA. If I'm going to compete in the Big Ten, I'm going to stay in Indiana as opposed to taking on UCLA. He will not be there 8 years. If this continues, he won't be there 8 years. So I don't have any problem with it. It's I'm sure that he'll take Indiana to heights they've never been to before, which is technically where they're at now. If they made the college football playoff again, just to say that we made the college football playoff 2 years in a row, what can you say?
Amazing.
That's amazing. I don't think he'll be there 8 years, but I don't think he's in a hurry to leave.
And he's 64 years old. If we're taking what he said at that press
Yes,
conference at face value, that according to the AD as well, loves 2 things, really only 2 things above everything else: football, the process, and the family. If you're 64, if your family is comfortable there in Bloomington and you really are ready to entrench yourself and align yourself singularly with this program, then just make it happen.
I know. And I think that's the only thing that not to spin it back to my school, but Lance Leipold is in his 60s. And the thing is that, look, Wisconsin is up there just getting killed. And the guy's a program builder. Everybody's gone. He's gotten things together that had fallen apart.
Oh, putting it out there into the ether, huh?
No, I've been very clear about it.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to do something to keep him, because I think Wisconsin is going to offer him the job. Or I think Wisconsin is going to openly say we want to interview your coach. He was the Wisconsin Whitewater and won 5 or 6 national championships at that level, or along those lines. He knows that program. He knows those people up there. So, but I think he'll stay, because I think I just like it here. I like it, and I'm 60 some odd years old. I'm not in my 50s. I'm not in my 40s. I'm just, it is what it is.
You like that renovated stadium? New digs.
Yeah, built a guy a new stadium.
They help.
So same thing with Cincinnati. He might just say no, seriously, I am going to stay here. I'm going to stay.
Yeah.
Right. Now, you know how that is. They'll go 3-8 next year, and he's like, I knew we shouldn't have signed him to that damn contract. Yeah, blah, 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 And then you might say, somebody calls you up, because they've just fired their coach next year. It's like, oh, yeah, okay. Well, maybe I'll go there and coach between the ages of 66 and 72. Right.
And hey, this is somebody who, outside of the great state of Indiana, I don't think would ever be confused for giving you the warm and fuzzies, right? But here's the thing. When you basically labor and, dare I say, slog through X number of lower levels for decades, literally decades, and you have to love and embrace the grind. So I think we need to take all of those sentiments very genuinely.
Right. And why did he get the job at Indiana? Because Indiana was god-awful. When he got hired, it was not like he was walking in there and said, trust me, we're going to be in the college football playoff in 4 years.
Google me, but...
right. It's no, I don't think so. Right. But, so, basically, whatever he did, recruiting, coaching, the right staff, getting people to believe and all that, has played out over the last 3 years in that, Indiana's not bad 3 years ago. And then last year said I don't know if Indiana's as good as all that, but they earned their way into the playoff. And once again, last week, what did Alvin say? They going up there and get killed. They killed Oregon.
I was with you.
They killed Oregon. And that's myself you know what? Cignetti said to America, America, we are a for real team and a for real football program. So America and them 2 pinheads that do their show in St. Louis. And I'm boy, if I saw him, I'd say Coach, this is one of those moments where I'd say I thought y'all was going to get beat by 2 touchdowns.
It would be slightly less awkward, though, than the halftime interview that took place during that game.
Well, he's right. Well, he stands like Napoleon, too. I
love it.
I'm 5'8". I understand that, we have this complex Napoleon, and he really does. I said, I like him because he stands on the side like, how dare you doubt me?
Question the audacity.
That's in the question, the nerve, right? He said, you're Indiana football. We're with you, but we're just still kind of shocked. And he's just looking at you like, how dare you? That's like the halftime, how dare you ask me those Are you surprised?
Beyond questions.
Right. Yeah, you're questioning how did we do it? Right.
He's for real. Mendoza's for real.
Yeah.
Perhaps your Heisman winner in a couple of months. Who
Oh,
knows?
he'd light up the rest of the way. And but they got
You don't have anybody else though, really.
Well,
of course, besides the game.
Right. They yeah.
Put yourself in that setting though. Okay.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see about that one. We'll see about what Indiana has.
And or real quick, they blasted Illinois, and I thought that was all Illinois. Now I'm looking at okay. Why didn't I believe that they were that good when they just blasted Illinois like that? Well, they took it on the road, did the same thing. I ain't doubting Indiana no more.
Nope, not anymore. And when you're not talking about having to go head-to-head against the Buckeyes in the waning months of 2025, that would be, makes things a lot different as far as how you were characterized and portrayed heading into what appears to be an inevitable second straight run to the CFP.
Right, and I think they could end up playing each other twice.
Yeah.
Because I think Indiana's going to lose one game, and that would be Ohio State.
Conference championship.
Right. So it's like, that's all I could say.
Until then, we shall see. We've had 7 different games for you on the College Football Connection. Alvin, Reid, Bradford, Bruns on 101 ESPN, the YouTube channel, and 101ESPN.com. Roughly 24 or so hours, Alvin, from the first wave of kickoffs, and also some contests we didn't get to really preview either. You've got Georgia Tech going to Duke as well. Duke has righted that ship.
I like Georgia Tech.
And on 101 ESPN, an 11:45 kickoff between Oklahoma. Mateer coming back, trying to look better than was the case against certainly Texas. Hey, Texas actually got on the board in a manner of speaking last weekend, but Oklahoma in what amounts to a clash against South Carolina. Do or die if you're going to salvage anything from 2025 for the Gamecocks. But we'll be reviewing those games. We'll be looking ahead to other mammoth clashes. Week number 9 will be here before we know it. Strap yourself in. Enjoy the pigskin this weekend, my man.
Hey, absolutely, man. And enjoy those Thursday and Friday night games, too. I am.
That's right.
Hey, man, those are cool.
Across the board. We love it. We appreciate, as always, you're listening, you're watching St. Louis and everywhere else in our audience. For Alvin Reid, for Marty Jenkins, my name is Bradford Bruns. We'll do this thing all over again for you next week. But until then, take care and have a great one.
Thanks for listening to